All right, welcome everybody, Red and Gold Generations. I am your host, Dustin. This is my dad, Lawrence, also the host of Red and Gold Generations. We're going to get into a few things today. We're really going to get into the Bengals fans today because they're a bunch of crybabies, and we're going to tell them all about it. So, getting right into it.
Yep.
I want to, let's just start things off with a couple of statistics. Not really game statistics, because no one really wants to talk about that Broncos game.
I didn't honestly.
But
I didn't even look them
what
up.
was I gonna say? Spagnolia, Reed, they didn't pull out any playbooks. They didn't care. Nobody cared if we lost that game. It was what it was. We got completely demolished by an NFL team playing third and fourth string players. Broncos did what they were supposed to do. So anyway, but back to the Bengals fans. The crybaby Bengals fans. Wouldn't you hate to be an NFL team that had to cry to another team to get into the playoffs and then cry about why you didn't get into the playoffs with another team?
You know, we've heard it for so long, especially from that bunch. And I'm gonna tell you something. I saw something. I don't know, a little photo here the other day, right after that game, and that stuff started immediately. Do you remember the Burrowhead comment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody that's a Chiefs fan remembers it and got a little cranked up with that one. So I can't blame Bengals fans for being aggravated. But here's what's happened since they made that comment. In 2022, after that comment, what did we do? We took them out of the AFC Championship. In 23, they got mathematically eliminated the week before, this week 17, by us. And then last weekend, they watched us give the football to Denver and let them do whatever they wanted to. So do they do they have some crime material? Yeah, they do. Am I sorry for them? No, I'm not. I'm especially not sorry for a young man called Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is an excellent receiver. Jamar Chase also doesn't know how to show respect to other people. He's a disrespectful little punk. Whatever you say about his ability doesn't mean much to me because I've been around a little bit longer than him. And whenever you see greatness on a football field, you need to acknowledge it. And to, go in front of the press and say, Pat who, and I'm not saying their name, you know, I think most of my grandkids would have a little bit more respect than to be that way. So are they going to cry? Yeah. Do I feel sorry for them? Not a bit.
Well, let's just talk about them crying. One, let's see, we were supposed to be afraid of them, right? That's why we threw the Bengals game. So let's just talk about that for a second. We're going to go through the Bengals record against playoff teams. But first, let me tell you what our record against playoff teams was. 7-2. Tied for an NFL record against playoff teams in a season. And one of those two losses was the game that we threw to the Broncos at the end. Let's go through the Bengals playing playoff teams. Start with Bengals versus Chiefs. Loss, 0-1. Bengals versus Commanders. Loss, 0-2. Bengals versus Ravens. Loss, 0-3. Bengals versus Eagles. Loss, 0-4. Bengals versus Ravens again. Loss, 0-5. Bengals versus Chargers. Loss, 0-6. Bengals versus Steelers. Loss, 0-7. And then the last two games of the season, they beat the Broncos, and they barely squeaked by against the Steelers. They went 2-7 against playoff teams this year. Are we afraid of the 2-7 against playoff team Bengals, who barely scraped by to even get a chance to begin with and went 2-7 against playoff teams? Are you kidding me, Bengals fans? Your team sucks. Sorry, we're not afraid of you. You didn't make it in. We don't have to worry about you because we took care of you week one, and so did every other playoff team as you started 0-6 against playoff teams. Bunch of crybaby Bengals fans.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I looked at their schedule too, just to see why their record was what it was. And yeah, the Ravens a couple times. I mean, they wouldn't have made it to the AFC Championship anyway. They really wouldn't have. So I don't know. They want to cry about something. They can cry, and they've got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 months to cry and get ready for another season. So have a cry.
Yeah. Well, have a cry in the off season. That's right. We'll keep winning, and we'll see you next year, and we'll beat you next year too. So.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. Well, that's about all the attention I want to give Bengals fans. You're not even worth my time right now. So, how about this? The Chiefs are just one of 9 teams in NFL history to win 15 plus games.
Nine
That's
in history.
9 in history.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And I mean, we could have won 16 games really and been only one of 2 teams that won 16 games if we hadn't wanted to throw that last game.
Well, the most exciting thing that happened in that entire game was that tip drill back there in the end zone when the Chief hit it. The Broncos receiver hit it, and one or two more Chiefs hit it, and then the guy secured it in the end zone. So that was an interesting play, and that one's going to be, on a highlight reel somewhere. But, I don't know that we played any starters in that game outside of maybe Humphreys. I saw Humphreys out there a little bit. I definitely saw him toward the end of the game when one of the defensive ends, can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I just basically slapped him out of the way and got right to the quarterback. So man,
It's on film, DJ Humphreys. It's on film. They know that you're putting your hands out there, and they know they can slap your hands by you and get past you. That's on film. Now, whether you used to do that in the past, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of DJ Humphrey film from back in the day. I hear he was a great tackle, but since he's been in Kansas City, he is getting beat by that move a ton. I mean, in the 2 games he's been there, he's been beat by that, 4 or 5 times? That is resulted in like a sack.
yeah, and wasn't that what's his name? Is that Benito? Am I saying that right? From the Broncos, probably one of the sack leaders this year. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to defend against guys like that into the playoffs. So you know, one of those things we'll probably talk about a little bit is I wouldn't mind seeing Denver again. I really wouldn't. We'll set the record straight on the Denver Broncos too, because they're another division team that they didn't see us Sunday. So Andy Reid was throwing out plays that he had defense or offensive tackles going out and taking passes. So he made sure in that entire game that he didn't call a play that anybody's going to have any success with on film to see what they're doing. He's a whole lot smarter than that.
Same on defense. Like we were playing, I think it was Tony Romo calling that game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the one that was saying, Spags is back there playing, cover 2, cover 3. He goes, he's not disguising anything. He's going, here we go. We got a defense back here. And everyone's like, oh, Bo Nix did so fantastic. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Bo Nix. He's had a great season from what I hear. I'm not a Broncos fan, so I haven't really been looking into it. But I guess he's had a great season, and Sean Payton's a heck of a coach. I feel next year it's going to be a little bit more competitive with the Broncos, which I'm all for. It's about time, AFC West. I mean, we have been dominating you for the last 8 flipping years. You've been nothing on our radar. I mean, let's get some competition so you guys can't mouth off and say we're not playing anything. AFC West, 3 of the 4 teams made the playoffs. You think our division's a little scary this year? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole lot tougher this year. You got Justin Herbert, who is a outstanding young quarterback. And when Harbaugh came to LA, I knew that the Chargers were going to be a different ball club. There's no
Yeah.
doubt that man knows how to win. He's a player's coach, a great guy, really is. And him and his brother are both great gentlemen. And I wish him the best in success in the NFL, just not against the Chiefs.
Well, speaking of the Chargers, let's talk about who do we want in the playoffs. I'll tell you who I want, and then I'll tell you my reasons, and then you can tell me who you want. Personally, I'll take the Texans. I don't. Let's I mean, if I was wishing, I would say the Steelers, but the Steelers are not going to beat the Ravens in the playoffs. So,
No.
Steelers aside, I would take the Steelers first. But I would take I would want the Texans over the Chargers. I think we match up better with the Texans. The Chargers play us well every single time. And I mean, it's a to the wire game. Even the last couple of years, even though we beat them a lot, it's still been a to the wire game. And Justin Herbert's a heck of a quarterback. And I would rather play the Texans over the Chargers. Not scared of either one of them, but if I'm going to pick, I would take the Texans.
I'd have to agree with you just because we play the Chargers more and they're much more familiar with our schemes, and they're going to be a good ball club. I got a feeling that the Texans don't stand much of a chance. The kid that got hurt in the Chiefs game would have made a big difference for CJ and his bunch from Houston. So I don't think they stand a chance. Not there. Not on that game.
Well, then that's the next question. Who do we think we're going to get?
The Chargers are going to win that game, but who we're going to get is the Bills not the Bills. I
Talking about
don't.
the AFC Championship game. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Bills.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say that the Denver Broncos are going to beat the Buffalo Bills.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just, yeah, nobody's got a chance for them, but I don't know. I have been suspect of the Bills' defense for a few games, and maybe they've improved things. I just don't pay that much close attention to the Bills, and I know they got Josh Allen, but I'm going to call for an upset, and I'm going to say that we play the Broncos in that first game, and in the AFC Championship, it's going
Oh, you think we're going to play the Broncos first? I mean, that makes sense because they're the seventh seed. That's
yeah.
right. And then who do you think? You think we're getting the Ravens in the AFC Championship game?
Yeah, because my pick is this: the Chargers are going to take out the Texans. The Ravens are going to take out the Steelers. So you got the Ravens and the Chargers. We won't face the Chargers. Um, the Harbaughs can go after it, and the Ravens win if they play the Chargers. I
So
don't. I
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
You're going to see it a whole lot. You got to see it a whole lot different if you don't pick the Broncos.
Yeah, I don't pick the Broncos. I think rookie quarterback, first time in there. I think their win was getting into the playoffs. That was their win, right? And I think Bo Nix, as well as he's played, I think the nerves get to him, especially in Buffalo, against a team that they're seasoned, right? They have been to the big games, and I mean 13 seconds they lost. I mean, some of those games are just barely getting beat. I don't think the Broncos, not yet, not this year. So yeah, I've got the Bills beating the Broncos, Ravens beating the Steelers, Chargers beating the Texans. I have us playing the Chargers, and I think we're going to handle the Chargers. I think we're going to handle them,
I do
honestly.
too. Yeah.
And then, so that leaves Bills versus Ravens. I'm unsure, but I still think the Bills are going to beat the Ravens. I don't know. That offense of the Bills is too good. And then I have us versus the Bills in the AFC Championship. And then, coming to Arrowhead, no. The Bills just, with that defense the way it is, and our defense playing. And that's been the biggest kicker, is our defense just hasn't been as good lately. Or in the last few years we played them. So they've been able to keep pace. And now that our offensive weapons are back, their defense isn't going to be able to keep up with our defense. And we win. We go to the Super Bowl. And I say we go against the Lions. That Lions team against the Vikings looked scary. Because I was like, well, here's the game, right? This is the game. I was really interested in that. I'm like, the Detroit Lions are all beat up. Minnesota Vikings are supposed to be this defensive powerhouse. Like, this is the game. And the Lions just demolished those Vikings.
I don't think Sam Darnold he wasn't himself in that game from at least the highlights that I've seen. I haven't followed the Vikings either. I do have a lot of respect for that team. I really do. And this Darnold kid, don't know much about him, but he's really looked good this year. In the Lions game, he didn't look good. He missed some throws. Kind of reminded me of Patrick and sailing some of them high, some of them outside away from the receiver. just wasn't quite with it during that game. If they meet again before they get there, which can they? Let's see. Yeah, they certainly can.
Yeah, you can.
So I'm a Lions fan. I really am. I think Dan Campbell he's a wild man. He's taken the NFL by storm. You take a look at that Detroit Lions team. What was it? 2 years ago or 3 years ago? They won just you can count the number of games they won on one hand easily. And now they're getting ready to compete, in my opinion, too, for the Super Bowl. So hats off to that guy. His team has suffered a lot of defensive injuries this year. I don't know if Hutchinson will get back in that um, game or not. You got to love that commercial with him in it. State Farm people have come up with some good
Bundle
ones.
Save. Bundle Save. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
yeah, that's
I
awesome.
will
But
say, Detroit, if we do get Detroit, we match up well with Detroit because they're have to get the run game going in order to get the passing game going, and that's what we thrive on, right? We shut down the run, and then you become a one-dimensional team against us. And they do a lot of those pitch outsides, and that's the stuff that Trent McDuffie and Leo Chanel and Bolton just tear up. You try to pitch it out to the outside, and I mean, you're not just getting stopped, you're getting stopped for loss. And then Chris Jones in the middle, you're just not running it up the middle. Yeah. So I'll take Detroit in the Super Bowl. And one other thing about Detroit that, if I, if the Chiefs don't make it, I'll be rooting for Detroit. They have an injury list longer than ours. I mean, they are decimated with injuries. And you talk about a resilient team. I mean, we know how we've had to play with big injuries. They've got injuries everywhere. Offense, defense, especially on the defensive side of things. So be able to step up the way they have, yeah.
well, and here's the thing, okay? If we match up in the Super Bowl, I think our offense still hasn't shown everything that it's got this year. And I think you're going to see some things in these playoffs. We've talked about it on this podcast before. Coach Reed holds back. I think Spags even holds back. And buddy, I'm telling you, we got some weapons that people don't understand having Hollywood Brown back and what it does for that. Man, I wish Rashee Rice could have made it through this season just to see what would happen because you and I both know that these seasons come and go and there's only one of them. It was last year's team is different than this year's team. But I think our offense in this playoff run, I think you're going to see an offense that we haven't seen all year, and it's going to put a big smile on our face. I don't have any concerns about our defense. I really don't. We got Jalen back in the back or defensive backfield, so that's going to help. Connor, I think, is healthy. He was playing in that game. He does a good job for us too. So Bolton and Tranquil, they're not going anywhere. And then, you got a Minihue back on that outside. Chris is not going anywhere. So, yeah, I feel like our chances are really good. Just I'm curious as how this wild card weekend shakes out and who we play next.
It'll be good. All right, let's see here. There was one other thing that I was gonna.
I
Yeah,
know what.
wide receiver Xavier Worthy finished second among all rookies in touchdowns with 9. So shout out to Xavier Worthy.
Good job.
Uh, and then the Chiefs ended the regular season with a turnover in 7 consecutive games.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a defense. I'm going to say something else, too, real quick about the Titans. The Titans became the #1 team to draft this next year. So do you remember a guy by the name of L'Jarius Sneed that
Yeah.
played for the Chiefs? Well, we got a third-round draft pick for him. So the Chiefs, when they win the Super Bowl, they've got the 66th and the 67th pick. So from the end of the second draft pick to the first draft pick on the third round, we got them both. So that could be some future building right there, especially for that O-line.
Well, and Veach just knows how to pick them. I mean, I say Veach. I'm sure he's got a team together. They knew Mahomes. Nobody else knew Mahomes was going to be Mahomes, but Veach and Reed did for whatever reason. And I mean, Xavier Worthy, they knew what he was going to be. I mean, they got good eyes for that kind of stuff. All right, well, let's talk about who needs to step up for the playoffs. I'll start with offense. You can go with the defense. For the offense, who needs to step up big time is DeAndre Hopkins. It's his time to shine. All attention is going to be to Travis Kelce because, they're looking to the playoffs last year and they're going, who stepped up and who tore us up down in the red zone? Travis Kelce did. So they're going to take him away. And, I know Worthy and all those guys are speedsters, but I'm talking about red zone offense. It's got to be DeAndre Hopkins. He has got to be the man that steps up in the playoffs. He's got to show why we went and got him as that, big time wide receiver one. I guess he's wide receiver one. Dang, Worthy and Hollywood Brown now. Whatever. He's got to be the man down there in the red zone. He's getting man-to-man, and I don't think we've been throwing to him because I think, like you were saying, Reed's got something special for him in mind, and I think you're going to see him start tearing it up this postseason, and he's got to. That's who's got to step up on the offensive side.
One of the things that I've noticed that we've lacked this year overall on the defensive side of things are getting to the quarterback. I know Chris Jones, I believe, leads the league in pressures, but we're still letting the quarterbacks throw the ball. If we can get more pressure from our defensive line and make these quarterbacks make mistakes, make them throw the ball before they want to, contain them with our linebackers, we're going to be very difficult to play against. The defensive line, I believe, is the key going into the playoffs. Bolton and Tranquil have proved themselves all year. Obviously, our defensive secondary needs to step up a little bit. Trent McDuffie is the leader back there. He needs to take the bull by the horns, and he needs to show people why he is a shutdown CB back there. So I think the key, though, is that defensive line and getting pressure on the quarterback, sacking him, and making him do things he doesn't want to do, and not letting him out of there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because we've got some quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, if we meet him, that boy can sling the ball. He does not need time back there. And he's smart enough that if you're just bringing, pressure, he's got those big tight ends. We saw that last time we played him. McDuffie, as great as he is, they'll wait till he's matched up with McDuffie and they'll throw a little slant to a, big O tight end. That is the Achilles heel in our defense, I think. So I agree with you. Got to get pressure in there, so that we only have to rush four and our linebackers can stay back and cover these big O tight ends a little better. Yeah, I like it.
I will say this, too. Love Harrison Butker to death, but I'm going to tell you something since he's come back. I don't know if it's just he lacks the confidence now for some reason, but I've seen him miss how many now? And it's really surprised me. And I don't want these games to come down to Harrison like the Buffalo game a couple years ago. Right now, I don't have faith. Sorry, Harrison, but I don't have faith that he can hit that.
He is scaring me. I would have just loved if he'd have cranked that 51-yarder down the middle. If that was the only thing he got to do, crank that 51-yarder down the middle so that, a little bit of, I don't know. Butker, though, he's got those ice in his veins over the last few years. It seems like the more pressure there is, the bigger he steps up. So, maybe he's just like a Mahomes and a Kelce. Maybe he just needs that pressure to just go, yeah, buddy, I'm going to crank this right down the middle. Oh, 3 50-plus yard field goals in a row? Yeah, it's not a problem. You remember that?
I sure do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
just
awesome.
Amazing. Now, on the other side of the special teams, Hardman, I believe, is eligible. He's coming off the IR, right?
He's off. He was practicing, yeah.
Okay. I think he's going to be – I was wondering about him for kickoff returns. There's not that many, but I kind of like this kid. Yeah.
I like him back there. He just seems a little bit more exciting to me than Hardman. He's trying to crank one off, whereas, I don't know, Hardman is safe and he will crank one off, so I like that part of him. But Remigio, he wants to run one back, and that hungriness, I like that. I like that kid. He's a rookie, right? Yeah, he's a rookie.
Yeah, I loved watching him play. What scared me was I don't remember which game it was, but that ball flew out and about went I don't know, it went 5 yards in
He fumbled
down the
it, yeah.
field.
And hit the guy in front of him and bounced back.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just flew out.
yeah.
Well, and that's that rookie part, and that's him being hungry. And I bet his coaches said, look at Carson Steele sitting the bench now. You drop that ball again, and
You're done.
uh, you're done. But yeah, having Hardman and Remigio back there, although I like Samaje Perine back there, he'll get you 35, 40 yards too.
He's one of those special guys that he never gets enough recognition, but I've enjoyed having him on this team this year.
I have
That's
too.
another one of those variables that, from year to year, you just have different guys playing on our team. Remember McKinnon. Um,
Yeah.
and, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I want to say this before we get out of the season here. Young man that struggled with some off the field issues, but I don't know how many people are aware, but this young man stepped up and was an absolute hero during the Super Bowl celebration in Kansas City when he helped a family, I believe, shielded a young man from harm. And that takes a special kind of strength in a man that not very many of us have. So I want to shout out to him where I know he got picked up by somebody. I don't remember who it was, but uh, yeah,
Good for him.
yeah, I'm glad to see him being able. Hopefully, he can get back in the NFL and make a difference. But remember the catch that he had in wasn't it the Super Bowl here a couple years ago? Just an outstanding in the air grab. So, we've had guys like him and P Ryan this year. I love seeing that. Every now and then they'd run that screen out there, and Samaje'd pick up 20, 30 yards. So. Will he come back next year? I don't know. He's one of those variables, but I've enjoyed watching him play. And he's done not a bad job on kickoffs, too.
He's got good hands too, and like that guy is ready for it. I mean, if you watch him, every time Kelce gets the ball, he is literally over there ready for a lateral from Kelce. I mean, just every time. Like even when Kelce hasn't thrown it, P Ryan's right there, and then that he falls down on that one play. Mahomes trust, right? Mahomes throws it, so they slowed that down. He fell down, hadn't quite turned around. Mahomes chucks it in the air before P. Ryan had actually turned back around from falling down to catch that ball for a first down. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, I have loved from our teams over the years.
Those highlight reels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one of those Buffalo games that we will never forget when the nitwit lined up off sides by half a toe like the Ravens lost the game to us. But, I hope that Travis Kelce has the opportunity to pull something like that just one more time. Just one more time, Travis.
Yeah.
Have somebody out there. Maybe it's Samaje because he's ready. But, man, can you imagine him being able to do that in the playoffs, toss that ball across the field, and P. Ryan get to score? I mean, what better way to wind up your career with the Chiefs if this is his last year with us?
I was going to say, before we leave, what do we think? Is Kelce done?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Travis is back for one more year.
So, regardless of win or loss?
I don't think that it matters. I think Travis wants to play one more year. His leadership, I believe that if he does come back next year, that it will be in a diminished role, and I don't know that he will be a starter. But can you imagine having a guy like him? Because he loves the game. He loves Kansas City. I don't know that he's ready for that next step. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what him and his girlfriend do, in the off season. And it might depend on whether or not we're Super Bowl champs or we're number 2, or whether the Lions take us out. But
Well, I know the Chiefs fans don't like to talk about Taylor Swift, but, I kind of follow her just a little bit because it matters to Chiefs fans because she is taking time away, supposedly, from touring and everything to settle down and be a mom, is what the stuff is. Now, she's not, I don't believe she's pregnant or anything like that. I think the idea, though, is that they're going to settle down and have a family. So I wonder if that is, what makes Kelce say, well, I got to take some time away from the game, but I don't know. I truly don't know. If I was going to pick, I'd say uh, I I don't know. I can't pick.
I will say this. She makes a difference because a guy who is in the declining years of his career, and I hate to say that because the guy hasn't really ever declined. You got to love him as a football player. But who got the most votes for the Pro Bowl this year? Travis Kelce. Why did he get the most?
Swifty
There you
fans.
go. So people that don't know, the Ravens from the Chiefs are gonna, they're gonna cast that vote for Travis Kelce because he's important to Taylor. So there you go. I would like to see him come back another year, maybe in a smaller role as far as on the field, but guys like Noah Gray can sure use his presence out there, and Noah Gray might be the next Travis Kelce.
Well, and even if he's not a starter, or even if he is, boy's got hands for days. You can't not double him down in the red zone, no matter how. I mean, he can still run 5-6 yards. He can still run 5-6 yards for a while. I mean, so try not covering him in the red zone next 3 or 4 years. He'll get the most touchdowns he's ever had in a season. You try that.
Look what happened in the Steelers game. That looked like shades of the old Travis. He's slower, and you can tell it on the field. But the ability that he has to read defenses, to read what Patrick's going to do, you can't teach people that unless you're that guy and you teach it to your teammates, maybe.
I agree. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you. Gosh, when will we do our next podcast? I guess I don't know. We'll figure it out and we'll post something for you.
You bet. Sounds good. All right, man.
All right. Talk to you later.